Hey, welcome to No Code MBA, and welcome to this video where we're going to talk about databases in Bubble. My name is Seth. I'm the founder of No Code MBA, which is an education platform teaching people how to build with no-code tools. Myself, I've built a bunch of different Bubble apps, including No Code MBA itself. After you log in to No Code MBA, that's all built with Bubble with thousands of users. So I have a lot of experience setting up databases in Bubble, and also experience with SQL and running database queries and kind of understanding how databases work. So let's get started by showing you what each of these tabs inside of the data tab of Bubble means. So this is our Bubble designer. This is just a blank app, and I'm in the data tab here. And I'm going to focus on the data types tab, the privacy tab, and the app data tab. Those are the three tabs that I'm going to focus on in this video. So data types is kind of like setting up the database, the full database of your Bubble app. If you're familiar with SQL or any traditional databases, the data types, each data type is kind of like a table in your database. And then inside of that table, we have the fields that are kind of make up that table. So here under user, which is the default data type here in Bubble, by default there's going to be a user table, and then inside of that user table we have an email tab, an email field type, a modified date field, created date field, and slug field. Slug is kind of like the URL by default that is attached to that data type. So I'm going to go ahead and create a few more data types or tables in our database, and you can kind of see how they all can work together. So let's say this is an e-commerce platform that we are building. So we're going to have users, we're going to have product, we're going to have a purchase table, so we can keep track of the purchases. So users, product, purchase. There's a lot of other types of data types we would probably add if we were creating a full app, but just to get started, I'm going to create these, and you can kind of see how they can all connect together. So here we are in the product data type, and on the right side we have the name. You can always change this if you want to whatever you want, so that's kind of nice about Bubble. If you make a typo or something like that, you can always change it. So let's create a new field, and I'm going to call it name, and it's going to be a text field type. So here you can see all of the different types of data that you can make your field. And this is important. So if it's a number, it should really be a number, so that way you can do logic with math, for example, on that data type. So if you have a price, you're going to want to have that be number, which we'll do in a minute. Range, date, yes or no, that's kind of a Boolean. You might be familiar with that, a yes or no field. File, image, address. These are all field types that are kind of data types. So you want to make sure that it matches correctly to what you are naming it and what you're going to be using it for. Now on the bottom here, we have types that are users, products, purchase. This lets you link tables together, and I'll do that in a minute so you can see what I mean. So the name is a text, and then the question, this field is a list. We're going to keep that unchecked for name. But what that means is, for example, if you are going to have categories of products, you might want to make that a list if a product can have multiple categories. So you kind of want to think about, is this product going to have one name? So that the answer is yes, so it is not a list. But if it was going to have multiple names, maybe we would want to make that a list. So that's kind of on a high level how to think about lists and whether you want to check or uncheck that here in Bubble. I'm going to go ahead and click create, and there we go. So now we have a name field in our product table. I'm going to go ahead and create a new one as well, and let's have this be price, and the field type is going to be a number, and I'm going to create that. Okay, great. And let's go ahead and do that category example that we just did. So let's say we have a category here, data type, I'll create a new field, which is a name, a text. So we have a name for that category. And then for the product, let's say we have a category, field name, and for the field type, we're going to reference that category. And it's going to be a list and create it. So this category is pulling in data from this category tab. This is a way to link your tables together, which is really important. And here you can see how we created a list of categories. So now let's go to the purchase table. And what we can do is add information about the purchase that a user made. So to do this, we're going to use a couple reference fields. We're going to add a new field. The field name is going to be user, and the field type is going to be a user, and it's just going to be one user. So what we're going to do is, when there's a purchase, we can pull in that user and attach it to our purchase table. So now we know who the user is, and we don't have to include, the first name of the user, the last name of the user, any information, the email of the user. That's all saved here in the user table. So all we need is basically this user reference in the purchase table, and we can get all of the information about the user in that purchase table. Purchase data type is kind of what Bubble calls tables. Okay, the next is going to be the product. So the field type is going to be a product, and let's not make it a list for now as well. So basically what this is going to say is, now in this purchase data row that would be created when someone makes a purchase, which we would add logic for in Bubble to create it, we're going to have a user and a product. So we're going to have information about the user and information about the product that was being purchased. So that's kind of just a high level here, where we have a very basic database with users, a purchase table, a product table, and a category table here. Okay, so now that you have kind of a basic understanding of how to set up our data types and our database structure, what we're going to do is go into the privacy tab. Now, the privacy tab isn't something I'm going to get into in extreme detail in this video, but you should be aware of it. It's something that a lot of Bubble developers kind of forget until later, and then it can be a little difficult to restructure some of your app to make sure that it can have correct privacy rules. This is also something, if you are ever testing your app and something isn't working, it can often be the case that you've set up privacy rules that are hiding the data from yourself, which is causing it to seem like it's not working. So just kind of a heads up there, something that will kind of come up as you start building more in Bubble. So privacy rules prevent your app from displaying data to users that shouldn't be able to see it. So for example, you don't want to share user emails publicly with everyone. You want to make sure that that's hidden and can't be seen by other people. There could be other information that users are adding to your app that you don't want to expose publicly. You also probably don't want to expose purchase information publicly, for example. So, but by default, the purchase data is public to everyone. So just something that you want to consider, and you would add new rules and set the rules so that only certain people can view the data. What I mean by viewed is someone could go into the code of your app and get this information, even if you're not publicly showing it on the app. That's where privacy rules come in and prevent people from who have a little bit of coding experience from going in and actually querying your database and getting this information. So that's the difference between like public and private data here. So just something that you should be aware of and make sure that you learn a little bit more about before putting your app live and making sure that you're protecting the data that you want to be protected. Okay, next is app data. This is where you can see the live data in your database. So this is also where you can see all of the different data types in your database. And here, for example, under products, we could add a new entry directly from the database. So the way that you would typically do it is, users might, sign up, and then you're going to have logic in the workflows of your Bubble app to add that, user to the database. But in our case, we can also experiment just by adding a product. So a product, let's just call this name. Let's say it's a basketball. It is $25. And I don't have any categories right now to add, so I'm going to leave that blank because we didn't create categories yet. Well, so I'm going to go ahead and create it. And now we can see we have that piece of data in our database. And I can go ahead and also delete it if I would want. There's also ways to upload data as a CSV. So if you have a lot of data you want to upload to your database, you can modify it with a CSV as well, which is really helpful, as well as export that data. Something to keep in mind about this data app data tab is that you have something called a live database and a test database. So the test version of your app, which is what we're in right now because we haven't deployed our app to live, you actually need to upgrade your app to a pro bubble plan to get that live database. But the test database is going to have all of the same database tables and data types and fields as your live database. The difference is that the live database is going to have completely different data. So the only data that's going to be, it's two separate databases, basically, one for testing and then one for the live version that your users are actually using. So that's a really helpful way to kind of, test out your app, test things out without affecting your live database. So when you do have a live app, you can switch between live and dev using this button to kind of see what's inside your live database and your development database. Something else I want to cover here under the data types tab is Bubble is going to have 4 default fields for every single data type. You're going to have the creator, which is the person who created that data type. So just as an example, let's say you have a social media app and you have posts. The creator of that post, the user, is going to be tracked automatically. So you don't have to, build that into your database. Created date and modified date, those are automatically added as well. And the slug is automatically added as well. The slug is kind of like the URL of a data type. So just as an example, let's say that you have a blog data type, right? The slug is going to be the URL for the blog. So your website / blog / slug is how that works. Slug is also something you can update in your workflow logic in Bubble. So if you want to kind of create a unique slug, you can do that. Otherwise, it's kind of be a random generated slug. So I hope this was a helpful overview of how to build and understand databases in Bubble. Make sure to check out the link in our bio, No Code MBA, if you want to learn more about Bubble and no code. Check out our complete course on Bubble, which goes and teaches you how to build fully functioning web apps using Bubble, similar to Reddit, Airbnb, a to-do list. So we have a variety of different types of apps and skill levels there to teach. And if you have any questions at all, please just drop it in the comments and I'll do my best to help out. All right, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.